Showdown Joe was down at the event Saturday.
Maybe you can weigh in.
How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing all right. I'm surviving, boys.
You a little tired? What's going on?
Did you just go 5 rounds with the Mauler or what?
A little tired might be the understatement, but I was just thinking about. I think it was the best fight week I've ever experienced. Covering the sport for so long. I'm sending off all these thank you texts and emails to everyone. I'm still not done. It was just an unbelievable week. So.
What did you make of Jonathan Bernier's form last night? His striking has improved significantly, Joe, and I really thought Ryan Miller took him lightly.
Well, in essence, he channeled the fact that he wasn't able to be at the ACC to watch the fight, perhaps. So, or he was, and he says, you know what, I got to put my statement out there as well on the ice. So, good for him.
Are you on the side of the fence that I have a feeling you are, that I am, about people booing? Like, you can boo a decision, but to boo either of the two fighters in that main event is borderline ridiculous.
I think they're booing perhaps the decision that if they agreed with Gustafsson winning the decision and Johnny gets the fact that to do the post-fight interview as the champion, that could have been the booing there. But it was a long time ago when I stopped criticizing any sort of fans that, pay their money to go watch fights. If they want to boo, boo. If like you said, if you think they're an idiot for doing so, that's also your prerogative. I don't agree with any booing in mixed martial arts unless the fight is absolutely, boring and a guy didn't really engage. But listen, they have the right to voice their opinion, and I don't agree with I would say 99.9% of it. But if they want to do it, I just stopped that train a long time ago. I don't want to deal with fans who are booing who just simply may not understand what these guys go through. The first thing I did after the fight was I tweeted both Johnny and Alex thanking them for what they did, because they gave it their all and for our entertainment. These guys took absolute punishment that may show up 20, 30 years from now on their brains, and they did it for our entertainment. What are you booing?
Here. Showdown Joe here on Tim and Sid Sportsnet 590. The Fan in 360 talking about UFC 165, which happened Saturday at the ACC, and one of the great, not just main events, one of the great fights the sport has seen in a long time took place between Alexander Gustafsson, the challenger, and the light heavyweight champion, John Bones Jones. Were you good with how that fight was scored on the 3 cards, Joe, or what would you have changed?
I originally scored the fight 3-2 for Alexander, and I just watched the fight over the past hour again. I scored it 3-2 for Johnny this time, which could mean I'm going to have to rewatch the fight again. But I think Johnny did enough.
Best 2 out of 3, Joe. Best 2 out of 3.
I think Johnny did enough, especially in rounds 4 and 5. Alexander just put on I don't even know if this will be the fight of his life, because he's going to get that rematch, I think. And we might see another fight like this again when these two engage, perhaps. Hopefully Super Bowl weekend. We'll see what the final saying is for the UFC. But, it's such an amazing fight. It was incredible, to say the least.
Sid's heard me say this before, but I don't think I mean it more than I do right now. I'm not sure anybody lost. We just ran out of time. Because Alex may have put himself into the mainstream consciousness with this fight, something that he probably might not have been able to do if he had just landed a lucky punch.
Yeah, I think Alexander's stock value went up more than John Jones's did, but John's did still go up. And one thing that people really, really, really have to understand about John Bones Jones, and I heard Sid talk about, he's just entering his prime. He doesn't get the love he deserves. There's 2 things that John Jones has that many other fighters may never ever have. John is not only a fighter; he's got a fighter's heart. He also has a champion's heart. And there's a big difference in that. Having a champion's heart is getting your arm pretty much broken and popped off in the first round against Vitor Belfort, yet still coming back and submitting Vitor Belfort, and then getting your butt kicked, your face smashed open, a shattered foot in the first round versus Alexander Gustafsson, and still winning. That's a champion's heart. Not many guys will ever have that in their careers.
Joe, let me play devil's advocate on the image of John Jones in the ring and go down a different road, because there are a lot of people now saying, this is what a battle. Jones' toughness can't be questioned. None of that is in question anymore. Let me take the following stance and react to it. John Jones won. John Jones beat him, but John Jones just beat him. John Jones beat him by a hair in some people's eyes, and there are some people think John Jones didn't win the fight. Do you think from that brawling aspect, he really put a lot to bed because he just won by a very close decision? Or is what you saw good enough to flip the script on the John Jones has never really been tested and he's much tougher than we think angle?
I think he's much tougher than what people are giving him credit for, because he proved it yet again. You don't have to win every fight by knockout or submission. You just have to win the fight. Each round, I've never bought into this old boxing adage where to be the champ, you have to beat the champ. You have to steal it from the champ. No. You have to win one round at a time. At the very end of the fight, you then tally up the scorecards. That's how you win fights in mixed martial arts and in boxing. I don't buy this. You have to beat the champ. You don't score the fight from the opening minute to the final minute. You score the fight legally under the unified rules of mixed martial arts, round by round. That's how a fight is scored. If we were doing the old Pride days where you judge a fight from beginning to end, yeah, Alexander probably wins that fight.
Yeah, and I will say this. When people say that, I think what they're referring to is if a round's 50-50, give it to the champ. Like if they can't decide who won the round, oftentimes they'll give it to the champ because he's the champ. That's
you give me any round that people want to score 10-10 or 50-50, and I'll show you a guy who wins a round.
Yeah.
Joe, there was word that John Jones really injured his foot early in this bout. Mike Wicknell-John of Team Jones threw it out there on social media, but both guys went to the hospital here in downtown Toronto.
Tweeted
in fact,
a picture.
Alex Gustafsson took a picture of the both of them, just completely busted up. But word now is Jones was shockingly in decent shape. Are you hearing that as well? Is he unscathed coming out of that?
No, I heard he's hurting pretty bad. I mean, he doesn't. I think Dana White said it best at the post-fight press conference. John Jones doesn't want to hear the word fight or come back to the octagon for a very long time, at least a month or so. Let him get out there and relax. And I think he really hurt himself in that first round because you saw his footwork. He kept going back and forth, which he does a lot in fights, but he also didn't have the pop in his step, the pop in the takedowns. And even though he did have that adrenaline going, it started to fade away as the rounds went on. And Alexander did everything he could to avoid that fight on the ground. And when he put Alexander on his back, I mean, Hominick and Bobby T and I, the boss over at Sportsnet, were sitting cage side. We were just like, uh-oh. We finally get to see John on his back. What's going to happen here? Nothing really came of it, but I know John was really, really hurt in that fight, as was Alexander. There was one point in the fifth round, I think it was about 2.5 minutes in. If you ever get a chance to go watch it, it could have arguably been one of the scariest moments I've seen in my career. When Alexander basically sort of went to take a deep breath, and it looked like he was out. He had passed out on his feet, and then pulled the old Undertaker and sort of came right back up to life. And Mark and I were sitting there going, what did we just witness here? And we immediately started scanning the octagon for paramedics. We're like, is this one of the worst fears about to happen in the octagon? Thankfully, he was okay. He was running on fumes, but that was one of the scariest things I've ever seen. That guy gave it all, man. He left it all in there. It's unbelievable, man. He's still walking today. It's incredible.
Showdown Joe joining us here on Tim and Sid. I read one article that suggested that Gustafsson's size kind of was proof that John Jones had advantages with his size and strength at this weight, and they were nullified in this fight. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I'll buy into that. I'll definitely buy into that because, I mean, I guess the proof's in the pudding, Tim, because we saw a guy the same size as John, maybe not as long of a reach, but really take it to the champ. And I think that size difference really proves it. And there's nothing wrong with John Jones, who's naturally a heavyweight, cutting down to 205 pounds. Everybody cuts weight to get to the division they believe that they're the best in. So there's nothing wrong with John doing that. Mm-hmm. But now, yeah, we got a taste of a guy who's pretty much the same size as John and what John has to deal with in the future if the younger guys start getting bigger and better and have these long limbs. So I'll be honest with you, I cannot wait to see this rematch. It's going to be so sick.
All right, Joe, before we let you go, and we appreciate you coming on, it's been a very busy weekend. Your top 3 UFC fights ever in order.
Ooh.
And if this fight that just happened at the ACC Saturday isn't top 3, where would you rank it?
I'm going to have this fight here probably top 2 or 3. I'm going to throw Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin in the 2 or 3 category. Greatest fight ever in UFC history has to be Dan Henderson against Mauricio Shogun, who, I mean, if you haven't seen that fight, you think you were rocking in the seat there. Sid.
That was something. No, I remember that fight. I remember that fight.
That was just absolutely like the greatest fights of all time, guys, are always judged by momentum swings, right? And that fight, Dan and Shogun had so many momentum swings back and forth, the same as Forrest and Bonner, and the same thing with Alexander and John this weekend. It's just the momentum swings. One guy is just about to pull it off, and then the other guy comes back from adversity and nearly pulls it off, and then it happens again and again and again. Those are the greatest fights of all time.
Joe, we appreciate you taking the time. We know you're a little down on your energy, so we're going to help you out here, okay? You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we do it? We can do it. We shall do it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Much appreciated.
So Joe finishes off his workout every time. Told me on Thursday.
Oh, you're not kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
Really, Joe?
Every workout, doesn't matter what I'm at, I've always got the song ready to go. It's one of those songs that sort of gets the blood flowing, and it's one of those. George St. Pierre taught me a long time ago, it's the end of the workout that's the most important, not what you do throughout the workout. If you can finish on a high and get that heart rate going, you're doing fine. And that's the song that will get me going every time.
Sid's attempting to dance, so I'm just going to cut it off right now. Thanks, Joe.
I know what I'm downloading later. Thanks, Joe.